Hey guys, so today's going to be a video on Hamster Don'ts, and today I just have Chubby helping me out. And right now I just have her in this little cardboard playpen, and I got this idea from Chocolate Colors 26. Anyways, the first hamster don't is do not keep your hamster in a cage that is less than 360 square inches. When you measure your hamster's cage, you should measure the inside of the cage and the base of the cage, not the outside or the top of the cage, especially with bin cages because most of the time bin cages are larger at the top than they are at the bottom. And 360 square inches is the minimum size for any hamster cage. The next hamster don't is make sure that you do not introduce your hamster to any other pets such as a dog, cat, guinea pig, or rat. I've seen people put their hamster and guinea pigs in a neutral area and neither the hamster or the guinea pig is injured, but the hamster and the guinea pig don't really play with each other like how dogs play, so it doesn't benefit either of them and they can get injured, so it is a small risk and I would not recommend taking that risk. The next hamster don't applies to Syrians. Make sure that you do not put 2 or more Syrians together in the same cage, or don't even let them smell each other because Syrians are solitary animals.
You should never put 2 or more Syrians of the same sex together. They will fight if not broken up. This also means that it does not matter whether or not it is mother and daughter or father and son. If the Syrians have already matured, they should never be put together because they will end up fighting.
Also, some people ask me, I see 2 or more Syrians in the same cage at the pet store. Why are they not fighting? The reason why those Syrians are not fighting is because they are not sexually matured yet.
And actually, some pet stores do have to separate their Syrians because they are starting to get into fights because they've already matured before somebody has bought them.
Once the Syrian has matured, they start getting territorial and will fight for their territory. But like I said, Syrians do not live together in the wild, so you should not put them together in captivity. And so that topic leads me on to the next hamster don't, and that hamster don't is you should never put different species of hamsters together. If you do put 2 different species of hamsters together, such as a robo and a winter white together, they will fight. Now, there is such thing as a pudding hamster, which is a mix between a winter white and a Campbell's Russian dwarf hamster. So it is a mixed species, but I really do not suggest breeding those 2 hamsters. It takes a lot of experience, and you really should only leave breeding winter whites and Campbells to the experts. It takes a lot of research to breed those 2 hamsters together, and the hamsters can die.
You can, however, put 2 dwarves of the same species and same gender together.
And that also leads me on to the next hamster don't, and that next hamster don't is do not put dwarves together in odd number groups such as 3 or 5. For example, if you did have 3 dwarf hamsters in the same cage, 2 of the hamsters will gang up on one of the hamsters and bully it. The best way to keep dwarf hamsters together is to keep them in pairs or in a group of 4. But if you were to keep 4 dwarf hamsters together, there is also a higher risk of them fighting, and also you'd need a massive cage. So my suggestion is to only keep dwarf hamsters in groups of 2. Robos, winter whites, and Campbells seem to do fairly well together if you give them the right necessities and a big enough cage. I've never had a Chinese hamster, so I can't tell my opinion on them, but I have heard that Chinese hamsters usually prefer to stay alone. I've also had Campbells together, and they did great with each other throughout their whole life. I haven't had winter whites together because Chubby here is my first winter white, but my Robos seem to be doing great together. But I have read about a lot of winter whites being together, and they seem to do great with each other too. The next hamster don't is do not put your hamster in water to swim or take a bath. Your hamster can get very cold afterwards and die. It also causes a lot of stress on them. Syrians can develop wet tail and die afterwards, and any hamster can get very cold. Giving your hamster a bath in water does not help them. Instead, it actually takes those protective oils in their coat out. Instead, I would suggest using chinchilla sand or white repti sand. It makes their coat look really nice and actually helps their smell a little bit. Make sure to use sand and do not use dust because dust can be too fine and cause respiratory problems with your hamster. The hamster will roll around in it and take a bath. Also, if you have a Syrian and they do not take a sand bath, don't be too discouraged because dwarves usually like to take a sand bath more than a Syrian does. The next hamster don't is do not give your hamster too small of a wheel. Winter whites, Chinese hamsters, and Russian hamsters must have a large size silent spinner. A Syrian hamster must have a wheel that is at least 8 inches in diameter. Lastly, Robos can have a small silent spinner or a large silent spinner. If their backs start to arch in the small silent spinner, make sure that you move them up to a big silent spinner. And now that leads me on to the next hamster don't. Make sure that you do not give your hamster a wheel that has little slits in it or is made out of some sort of wire. If your hamster has that wheel, they will eventually get a problem called bumblefoot. Sorry about that, guys. Chubby was getting too hot, so I brought her inside for a little bit, and I just put that water bottle right over there in the freezer for a little bit, so now it's nice and cool, and she can lay against it if she gets too hot. So now, last but not least, you should never, ever breed your hamster. Please leave that to the experts, and do not do it. You need to know the genetics of at least the hamster, its parents, and the grandparents. Breeding hamsters that came from a pet store or that you have adopted is not okay. You must do research, know the genetics, and so on. I could give you a whole list of what you need to know, but it would be way too big to fit in this video. I've actually had a couple of people private message me and saying that they have already bred their hamsters and asking me what I know and if I can give them any tips. I asked them if they knew the genetic makeup of the hamsters, its parents, and their grandparents, and then they asked me, what are genetics? I knew right then that they did not do any research at all on breeding their hamsters. Just sticking two hamsters together and breeding them is not right. Not even knowing what the genetics are and breeding your hamsters is very irresponsible. Also, don't try and bond a male and female hamster together. It does not matter what species of hamster they are. However, there is an exception. If you do have dwarves, and say for example the male hamster has become sterile, you can try putting him together with a female hamster, but you can only try that if you know for a fact the male is sterile. And people only find that out by putting the male and the female hamster together when they are intending to breed them. In that case, you should not have put the hamsters together intending to breed them, so you should not try it in the first place. Please leave breeding hamsters to the professionals who know what they are doing and know the genetic makeup of the hamsters. Anyway, guys, that is my video on Hamster Don'ts. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye!